Welcome to Whispering Pines, a suburban neighborhood that looked like any other at first glance. Picture-perfect homes, well-manicured lawns, children riding bikes, and families walking their dogs. It was the kind of place where people came to settle, to raise their families, and to live in peace. But beneath the surface of this seemingly ideal neighborhood, something was terribly wrong. This is the story of the HOA that vanished overnight, leaving behind nothing but confusion, fear, and the terrifying question, who was really in charge? Meet Sarah and her family. They had just moved into Whispering Pines, eager to start fresh in a quiet, picturesque neighborhood. The kind of place where dreams come true, at least, that's what they thought. They'd signed the papers, packed up their old lives, and now they were ready to settle into their beautiful new home. But they didn't know that in just a few days, they would be caught in the middle of a suburban nightmare. It all started innocently enough. The first morning in their new house, they got a letter from the Homeowners Association. The envelope was formal, crisp, and stamped with the HOA's seal. Sarah opened it with a sense of curiosity. Surely, it would be some kind of welcome packet. Perhaps a list of neighborhood amenities, or the schedule for the next community event. But instead, what she found was a list of rules so specific, so bizarre, that they felt almost like a joke. Your grass must be trimmed to precisely 2.13 inches, the letter read. Sarah blinked, unsure if she was reading it right. The mailbox must be painted every full moon, and must be positioned exactly 3 feet from the curb. What was this? A joke? Some kind of initiation? But as she read on, it became clear, this wasn't a prank. The more Sarah read, the more unsettled she became. No decorations that aren't approved by the board, it continued. No trees taller than 8 feet. The rules went on and on, each one stranger than the last. It didn't feel like a simple HOA. It felt like a secret society, with power and control that extended far beyond just keeping the neighborhood looking nice. But things didn't stop there. Over the next few days, Sarah began to notice something odd. The neighbors, who all seemed so friendly and welcoming at first, were acting strangely. People she had never spoken to before were suddenly outside at odd hours, trimming their lawns with precision, measuring their flower beds with rulers, painting their mailboxes at midnight, under the glow of the full moon. And they all seemed to be following the exact same rules from the letter she had received. Sarah tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just a coincidence, or maybe the HOA was just a little more strict than most. But then, something even more disturbing happened. One by one, the houses that had once displayed pride and individuality began to look the same. The same perfectly trimmed grass, the same identical mailboxes, the same eerily precise bushes and trees. It was as if the neighborhood had been taken over by a single, all-powerful force, and everyone was following the same strange, unspoken rules. It wasn't long before Sarah began to ask questions. She tried to contact the HOA, but something was off. Their office was located on the edge of the neighborhood, a small, unassuming building with the HOA's name on the front. When she called the number listed on the letter, it rang, but no one ever answered. She tried emailing, but her messages bounced back. Confused and frustrated, she decided to pay a visit to the office in person. When Sarah arrived at the building, she was met with an eerie silence. The lights were on inside, but the doors were locked. She pressed her face to the glass, looking for any sign of life, but the office appeared completely empty. There were no cars in the parking lot. No staff walking around. It was as if the place had been abandoned overnight. But there was one thing that didn't make sense. The rules kept coming. Every few days, another letter arrived, dictating the same strange, controlling demands. Then, things took a darker turn. One night, Sarah woke up to a sound outside her window. She peeked through the blinds, and there, standing at the edge of her yard, was a figure. Dressed in black, unmoving, staring straight at her house. It was late, far too late for anyone to be outside. Sarah's heart raced. She watched for a moment, wondering if maybe it was just a neighbor. But then, the figure stepped forward, walking slowly and deliberately toward her front door. She backed away from the window, her breath caught in her throat. What was happening? The next day, Sarah told her husband about what she had seen. But he didn't believe her. It was just some late-night prank, he suggested. But deep down, Sarah knew something wasn't right. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized that this wasn't just some neighborhood rulebook. This was something more. Something sinister. Determined to get answers, Sarah began to dig into the history of the neighborhood. She spoke to older residents who had lived in Whispering Pines for decades, hoping someone could shed light on what was happening. It was then that she uncovered a chilling truth. This wasn't the first time the HOA had vanished. Every 20 years, the HOA board disappeared without a trace. No explanation. No warning. Just gone. But the rules stayed. And they kept getting stranger, more controlling with each passing decade. The enforcers, those strange figures Sarah had seen, were always there, making sure the rules were followed, ensuring that the neighborhood stayed under control. Sarah was horrified by what she uncovered. The HOA wasn't just a group of neighbors trying to keep things neat and tidy. It was a secret society, one that had been controlling the residents of Whispering Pines for generations. They manipulated the residents through petty demands, forcing them into compliance with every bizarre rule, all while hiding in the shadows. And now, with the board gone, the enforcers had taken over. They were the ones ensuring that the rules were followed. They were the ones making sure that no one ever dared to step out of line. Whispering Pines wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a test. A twisted, never-ending experiment. An endless loop of control, stretching back decades. And no one had ever escaped. The residents had become so conditioned to follow the rules, so obsessed with their perfectly manicured lawns and pristine mailboxes, that they didn't even realize they were trapped. And Sarah had no idea how to break free. But now, as she looked around the neighborhood, she could see the truth. The enforcers were everywhere, watching. The rules were just a tool to control, to break the residents' will. And the scariest part? They might never escape. Whispering Pines was a place where no one could ever leave, where the HOA was more than just a group of neighbors. It was a force, an invisible hand guiding everyone, manipulating them into submission. And if you ever find yourself in a neighborhood like this, don't ignore the rules. Or you might be the next one caught in their web.